Man United family. Super glad you are here on this Friday to join us for the run-up. A little bit of change of scenery today. John Nelson's obviously covering high school football, as we all know. So I get to be joined with the one and only godfather of soccer, Jason Longshore. Thank you so much for joining me on Friday.
What's going on? Let's get ready for this thing on Saturday. Lots of people already chiming in on the Twitch pitch.
Oh, exciting. Yeah, so this is going to be sort of an interesting one. Jason and I were talking about, we want this sort of to be like an open forum, bit of discussion. We're going to talk about the big points, obviously, but we do want you guys to chime in. We want you to ask questions. We'll bring those comments on and we'll discuss them. First things first, I'm slightly handicapped right now, so if you see a hand waving around, that's what this is about. Apparently when I played soccer. Exactly.
What did you do now?
I have been working on my defending skills. I pretty much shored up the role of right back, like that's my position now.
Okay.
But I was playing on the back line, and every other person in defense decided to push forward when they should have been staying back, and so I covered goal like a dumb butt, and somebody hit a very, very beautiful volley straight into my hand from about 8 feet away. So it was a golazo.
But you tried to go full Luis Suarez as a defender and knock it down?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
It was either my hand or my face. So
yeah,
I had to sacrifice things. So
yeah.
I went with my hand.
Yeah, no, good call there. Good call. I mean, red card, obviously, and an injury, so.
Yeah, which sort of sucks, but thankfully, we don't have cards where I was playing, so.
Well, that's good, at least.
But, on other, notes, lights, it's been a day, guys. Crazy World 2020, obviously. I know everybody else knows sort of what's going on right now in the world of America. But we're going to focus because soccer is an escape from that. Speaking of, I know that you and I talked a little bit about this right before we were about to go on air, but I would love people on the Twitch pitch to chime in. I am addicted, like truly addicted to Ted Lasso. I started watching at the beginning of this week thinking it's got to be funny, somewhat comparable to what we saw with the Premier League promotions that they used with Jason Sudeikis. I thought it's just going to be pure fun, pure comedy, absolute ridiculousness. But Ted Lasso, oh my Lord. Addicting from the get-go, very hilarious, but there's a humanity and a heart to it that I was not expecting. And I think everybody that I've talked to, and once again, if you're on the Twitch pitch, please chime in because Jason has not been able to see this. So
I have not yet.
There is such a humanity and a just kindness in the show that is like so needed at a time like right now.
Okay. I need to see this because I wondered how they'd take, kind of commercials and turn it into a series, not even just like an extended version of the commercial, but turn it into a real show. I didn't know if it would work.
I didn't think it would either. Like I was expecting to get what I saw on the commercials, and you do, but there's like such a dimension that's underneath what that blank surface was. It's just a gold mine, absolute gold mine. So again, cool. If you're in the Twitch pitch and you agree, shout out, tell Jason that he needs to watch Ted Lasso as soon as literally possible.
Man, I'm trying not to sign up for another streaming service, but I've heard this from multiple people. Jarrett Smith's big on the Ted Lasso right now as well, and I don't want to do it, but I might have to. I'm not going to be able to for a period of time, though, because we got a whole bunch of games coming up. It's going to get crazy in my calendar.
Yeah, for sure. So looking ahead, let's go ahead and look ahead, because obviously we got the game tomorrow at 7 p.m. against DC United. We have then, it literally goes Wednesday to Saturday, Wednesday to Saturday, Wednesday to Saturday. So your schedule is pretty much booked solid for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's rough. We'll run through it really quick because this comes up. I think a lot of times when the results aren't what you want, it's easy to get angry. It's easy to get frustrated. And it's easy to forget what these guys are having to deal with. I mean, you're hearing every manager in the world talk about it. You're hearing a lot of players talk about it. I mean, this is what's coming up. It's tomorrow at 7, Wednesday at home at 7, Saturday the 10th at home at 6 o'clock, Wednesday the 14th on the road in Miami at 8 o'clock, the 18th on the road in Hartford, Connecticut at 7:30, the 24th, so not quite a full week off there, hosting D.C. at 4 o'clock, then going to Orlando on the 28th, just 4 days later. Then Cincinnati, you're hosting on November 2nd, another quick turn. And then you get a normal kind of week where you go to Columbus on decision day. That is a whole bunch of games. I mean, doing the math, we're in October 2nd. They play on the 3rd tomorrow. So the 3rd through November 8th, 35, 36 days.
Yes.
And you're playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games.
A lot of games.
Game every 4 days, pretty much.
Yep.
That's brutal. That is brutal. Some have described it inhumane. Some have described it as a disaster. You're going to have a lot of different lineups. And look, I know there's already a run out there right now is play the same lineup, set a lineup, play the same group every time, build some some chemistry. You can't. You can't. It's impossible. You can't play 90 minutes 9 times in 36 days. You cannot do it. So you're going to have to get everybody in this group, and I mean everybody, the guys who are coming back from injury, the guys like a Tyler Wolff, I mean George Campbell, Lawrence Weick, everybody is going to have to contribute to this. I mean, even Brad Gazan might need a day off. I mean, it's brutal. So you got to make the best of it. That's all you can do right now, but it's going to be rough.
Yeah, no, I mean, speaking on that note, you've got so many days and so many matches in a short amount of time. The compression's absolutely crucially imperative for the physical staff to make sure that these players stay healthy. I mean, this is something that has come up obviously with this team, with many other teams, is the whole injury report, right? Mm-hmm. So this constant feels like piling up of injuries from player to player because lack of recuperation, just strain on the body in total. I feel like come the end of decision day, we're going to see a lot more injuries league-wide on both conferences. It's just almost insane to think that you've got that many games in that little amount of time. And then just for our own injury report as it is, I mean, I know there's a lot of talk going on right now about the fact that Atlanta's keeping it secret or hush-hush.
A lot of rumor and innuendo. Is that where you want to go?
Yeah, that's where I was taking it. Obviously, if Atlanta United feels like they have something over the next team by not releasing the injury report and just saying that 3 of those 4 players are available and not necessarily saying which of those 3 or 4 gives us an advantage against DC going into that match. I know it's not what certain people want, but if you're Atlanta United right now, this is a must-win. I mean, most of the games right now are coming to be must-win games, especially if we're trying to be in that playoff picture. You have got to start getting results, however they are, whether they are ties, whether they are wins, even a loss, but like a good loss, like a you fought for the full 90-plus minutes loss is still what you need to have. And if you've got to take these little small things as far as like not releasing a true injury report, then you take that, however that is. 2020 is the year of winging it, apparently. So at this point in time, 2 truths, right? So Joseph's out for the entire season. Mm-hmm. You know that Kubo Torres is most likely out for the rest of the season, but he's definitely injured, definitely on the injured list. You're not getting him for the next couple of games. So then you're sitting with 4 players right now who are technically maybes, right? So you've got Miles, you've got Barco, you've got Josetu, and you've got Dom. So if you're Stephen Glass, if you're that front office, if you're getting ready to go into the next game, if I've got Jurgen Damm available and ready to go, I don't want to tell you that because that's speed on my wings. Why would I give you an advantage to switch the entire setup that you're going in with? I mean, am I crazy here that the need for the utmost information is just not pertinent at this moment?
No, it's not. I've been on both sides of this. I mean, I've worked independent from a team, covering teams, and yeah, you want all the information you can get, and if you can't get it otherwise and the team's not giving it to you, it affects the way you cover a team. I get it. And if you're a fan, it affects what you know going into the game, what you're expecting. It affects what we're talking about here because I don't know anything, because I don't want to know anything if the team doesn't want to make it public. I've said that many times. Like, I don't have advance information on things. Like, I'll get occasionally an advance, like, hey, there's an announcement coming in the morning, and you can kind of put two and two together and know what they could be because you know what's rumored. But that's about it. Like, I don't know who's healthy. I don't know what the lineup is tomorrow. I don't want to know because I've been on the other side. I've been in NPSL front offices. I've been on coaching staffs. You're looking for every advantage you can get. And you don't want to give any information. And right now, yes, you have a little added benefit that you don't have media training. You have the ability to keep things quiet, and you're going to take it because it does make a difference. If you have John Gallagher on the wing versus Jurgen Damm, if you have Brooks Lennon on the wing versus Jurgen Damm there, if you have Miles Robinson in the back versus Anton Walks or Franco Escobar playing center back, it creates that inability for the opposition to fully prepare. You want every advantage you can get right now. And there's no league rule you're breaking. There's nothing that you're doing to, I think, insult people. You're trying to win games. And you can't, this is the problem I have with it for people who are criticizing. You can't demand victories and results and not allow a team to do everything that they can to give themselves every advantage that they can. You cannot like that, and I understand that from a fan perspective or from a journalism perspective. I understand it. You want as much info as possible. You're not always going to get it, and that's just the facts. I mean, nobody else was listed on the injury report for tomorrow. It is the two that are out, and that's Joseph and that's Kubo Torres. Nobody else is listed. Does that mean everybody plays? No. Does that mean that you're not resting people for Wednesday? Nope. It doesn't mean anything other than you're going to pick a lineup with 11 starting and a bench tomorrow that could be what we think it is. It could be what we not think it is. It could be different on Wednesday. It could be different next weekend. I mean, that's just where we're at right now. So I don't know. I think at times it's let's be upset about something and let's yell about it as loudly as we can, and that's what everything's turned into. And sometimes that's incredibly counterproductive.
I would agree. It feels like MLS, especially within this fan base with Atlanta United, it's feels like every day we're on a precipice of a tipping point, whether one thing or the other is going to cause tension or chaos or something that causes joy, because we have had things that cause joy. Obviously, Moreno coming in, being able to start training today. You're going to get some joy out of that.
Training separate. That needs to be made clear because, yes, he's training, but it's the same thing Gonzalo Higuain went through. You're not going to just join the team immediately. You do have to go through the quarantine or isolation period, but you're able to train on your own separate from the group, and he's in that period. If he's able to hit all of the team's fitness goals and be where they'd like him to be, you could see him in the lineup next weekend. Is he going to be sharp? Is he going to have chemistry with the rest of the guys yet? No, he might have a training session or two. But this is not just your average player, and he's not coming in like Dom or Torres did with a lack of fitness. So you're going to trust that he'll find his way in the match. Blaise Matuidi came straight in and played for Miami. Gonzalo Higuain came straight in and played. I don't know why there's an expectation that Marcelino Moreno is not what he was paid to be. I mean, this isn't a cheap player that you're finding somewhere. It's not a player that his former club was happy to see go. This is a quality player. He was rated number 3 in the Argentine Superliga last year by Who Scored. Out of all of the players in the league, he was the 3rd highest rated player. He is a talent, and he's going to come in and he's going to help this group. I don't know why there's any question of that at this point.
I didn't know there was.
Yeah, but it's I don't know. Maybe it's because they've put the number 10 shirt on him. He wore number 10 at Lanús. He's going to play a 10 kind of role. That's what happens. Does that shirt have a little bit different meaning than number 43? Yeah, it does. It does. But that's soccer. I love the fact that he has embraced it and he didn't say, don't give me 10, don't give me 10. He's put it on, and that's a big deal, I think. And I think Pitti at times maybe was treated unfairly because he wore that number. Miguel Almiron was the first one to wear it. This is a club that's 4 years old and has already got a little bit of weight to a number on the shirt. That's pretty cool. That's a good thing. But, let him come in and play. I don't know why there's any negativity about Marcelino Moreno at this point. It's kind of crazy to me.
There was, but at the same point in time, you always want, as a team, obviously with history as we build, you always want players to come in to wear that jersey to give it different weight. Mm-hmm. So obviously Miggy he's going to be our first number 10 always. That's always who Miggy is going to be for Atlanta United. But you want other players to come in and wear that number and then build their own foundation under that number 10 so that the next person that comes in after Moreno is like, well, he's wearing the number 10 after Miggy and Moreno. So like, what does that player then have to expect after these 10s have played before him? As a club, you want these players to come in, take on that role as a number 10, and make something of it. Obviously, Pitti, very, very, I don't want to say controversial because that's a word that means a lot of things.
For some it is, and it shouldn't be.
Yeah, he was a player who people loved. He was a player who people really hated. And he was a player who performed at times and didn't perform at times, but he still brought something to the number 10 role that Miggy never did.
Yeah,
and you're going to have players that do that every time. Every time the 10 passes on, you shouldn't be expecting the same player.
No, and that's why I have constantly been fighting against hashtag blank replacement. You can't think of a team that way. It's not static. It's not going to be the same team over and over and over and over again. Replace the name on the back, and it's the same exact player. That's not realistic. That's not a recipe for success. So Marcelino Moreno comes in, and he has similarities to Miguel Almiron. He does. He's coming from the same club. He played in a somewhat similar system. He has a somewhat similar role. But he also has some similarities with Pity Martinez with his 1v1 ability. He has some similarities with Ezequiel Barco and his 1v1 abilities. He has some very unique abilities that you haven't seen in an Atlanta United player before. He is his own man, and he comes in after a player who is not a legend at Lanús, at the club that he came from, and the club that he had been with for 8 years, starting there at 17 years old. But Miguel Almiron's an incredibly respected former player of Lanús. And he also comes in after a player who is, I think, a legend in Argentina in Pity Martinez. And I know some people don't seem to appreciate that, but it's a fact. Nobody, when Atlanta United traveled internationally and even traveled domestically, nobody got the reaction that Pity Martinez did from fans at an airport, at a hotel. Nobody. And I don't know why that was never understood. At a press conference in Herediano, his first game wearing the kit, the press conference was interrupted by people chanting his name outside. That's a big deal. This is not just, oh yeah, it's Pity Martinez, whatever. Yeah, he's a bum. It's good that he's gone. Stop with this stuff. I saw him on the road so many times, be stopped in a hotel and ask for autographs and ask for pictures. And he signed everything, and he took pictures with everybody because he understood how people saw him. He also understood what it could mean for the club here, and he did everything that was needed to do. He wore the shirt with pride. He should go down as one of those legacy players in that number 10 shirt. And I hope when we get a little bit further down the road, we start talking about, Marcelino Moreno's worn that shirt for a while. Before him, it was Pity Martinez. Before him, it was Miguel Almiron. Look at what that shirt means for this club in this league. I hope Pity's not left out of that.
No, I would agree. I mean, you have to understand that each player, regardless of fan temperature, it is still important in the history of Atlanta United. I mean, he helped us win 2 trophies, so you can't take those things away from him. Just as the saying, you can't take those things away from Frank de Boer. Mm-hmm. But moving on, because I know that we could go on for that.
We could
quite a bit of time. Let's get into a little bit about the recap of Chicago, right? So, as stated in the last run-up we did, I had something I was doing on Sunday. I tried to see if I didn't watch again via television, if it would somehow, the superstition would just carry over. It didn't, unfortunately. So it consisted of me driving back from where I was with you guys on the radio. You
could probably hear how I felt.
I did.
I think it was pretty obvious.
It's incredible to me from a perspective, just like how you and Mike can keep going on these sort of things, because I'm sure as anybody in a Twitch pitch will understand, when you're frustrated as a fan, it's hard to talk about it. You don't want to talk about it. You don't want to dissect it at all. So I get that. But it's another thing completely when you have to dissect it. Mm-hmm. And you have to talk about what went wrong. And it just this entire season as a total, it just feels like one pinprick after the other for you. And I am so sorry. You guys held yourselves together so well. But let's talk about this, right? So things that I saw from the match, and we obviously get into what you saw from the match because you're you. But pressure, in the first 2 minutes of the match, Brad had 2 saves within the first 5 minutes of the match. That's that conversation that we keep having about Atlanta United not switching on the light. Right when you start, you have to be ready to go when you start, and that seems to be a problem. That players have said it, the coaching staff has said it. It's a problem that needs to be fixed. Will they solve it? They have solved it some matches, not in others. Obviously, we'll have to see how that plays against DC. But obviously, Herbert's seventh minute. Rometty should be positionally aware that somebody is going to come in from behind, or at least know. So we can get into that as well. But I gotta say, Adam John has some great shots on goal this game. And as much slack as Adam John gets, or it's slack, but as much as people are Adam John, he had a good game.
He did.
He really did. I mean, you had a save in the 19th minute from Shuttleworth that was insane. And then you had another save from Adam John in the second half from Shuttleworth. That's almost save of the year worthy, because it was so close and he just got a tip on the finger and it just deflected. So for somebody that's been watching Adam John sort of progress with this team from when we first saw him in Nashville to where he is now, it really feels like he's growing with the team. They're understanding how to deliver balls with him or to work with him on going back and forth and where the crosses should be and how he expects to receive them. So that's, from an attacking standpoint, that's interesting because it feels like we are on, again, the precipice of John. I mean, he's obviously not Joseph. He's obviously not Torres. But he can still be something that contributes to the attack instead of just being a piece that people are not using effectively. Other things, obviously, Chicago looked dangerous most of the game. They had a lot of really great chances. Goose had to have 2 insane saves within 3 frickin' minutes in the second half. So, got to give a lot of credit to Goose. It just ends up being this point of this point that's not really made, but 2-0 doesn't fully explain a match. Atlanta still had chances; they just didn't capitalize. So this is this is just a constant thing right now with Atlanta, and being that they have chances to even the score. They have chances to come back, but they're just not connecting. And so it comes to that point where it's like, I almost feel like I'm talking about the first season that we've ever played with Atlanta United, is like, when does the floodgates let loose? Like, when do we start connecting those passes?
It's interesting, like looking back at the numbers now, and I'm checking out what sofascore.com, which is a pretty good free statistical breakdown of things. And, having not watched this game since it ended because I didn't want to relive it again, looking back at the numbers, the thing that jumps out at me here is big chances. So Chicago had 4 big chances in the match. They converted on 2 of them. They missed 2. Atlanta had 3, and they didn't convert on any of them. They hit the woodwork once. They had the 2 big saves from Shuttleworth. It's not like they were woefully outplayed. It's the story that we've said many, many times this season. You give up an early goal and everything changes. There's just no way around it. You concede goals in the 7th minute or the 1st minute or the 2nd minute or the 10th minute or the 11th minute, and you're not going to win many games. It's just that simple. And it's a different way this time, at least. You didn't give up a goal off of a throw-in. You didn't give up a goal off of a corner kick or a free kick, but you give up a goal off of a turnover that's it's just an elementary kind of error. And Eric Remedi's a better player than that. But he's had some of those mistakes at times. And Stephen Glass said it this week, and it's entirely accurate. You're going to have a new manager in here next season. They're going to be looking at these games. They're going to see good things and bad things and make decisions about what their base lineup is based off what they've seen. The front office is going to have to make decisions on contracts, and they're looking at these games, and they're looking at mistakes, and they're looking at players who are making the most of the opportunities in front of them. And that's going to inform not just who plays next year, but who's here next year. Because this team's not going to just settle for what we've seen in 2020. And injuries have had a huge factor in it. The way the season's gone has had a huge factor in it. Those are all reasons, and they're valid ones. But you've had poor performances, and you've had poor performances from players that you expected more from, and you've had poor performances from players that you've seen more from. It's not even... I think the easy out that a lot of people are taking is, it's all the new guys. It's all the new guys' fault. Eric Remedi's been here. Franco Escobar's made mistakes during the season. He's been great lately. He's been here. Brad Gazan's had mistakes. He's been here. It's not just the new guys. Yeah. And you've got to get better, but to get better and to make changes, that means some guys who are here are not going to be here next year. That's what happens to a team that struggles in a season. And that's what I think you're going to see in these next 9 games, and that's what's going to drive a lot of players, is do they want to be here or not? And you're going to see guys who are playing for contracts because it's going to affect what the front office does in building the squad for 21.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. I mean, it's players that have been here and so we're not saying it's just players that have been here, like just not.
No, it's not just new guys. It's not just older guys. It's the whole group, but it is spread around the group. It's not just, you got rid of players that were really good and you replaced them with players who are really bad, and that's the whole story. No, that's not the story. Eric Remedi gave up a goal in the 7th minute with just a very basic mistake, and he's a better player than that. And we all know that, and we've seen that. But we've also seen for about a year now, he had up and down performances. And, that's just the fact. That's where you're at right now. And that's a position in the field where I don't think you have gotten consistent quality all year long. And it's not just Mateus Osatu. It's not just Emerson Hyndman. It's not just Eric Remedi. It's not just Mo Adams. It's not just Jeff Larinowitz. It's all of them at different times. That's been a huge issue at times this season, is that holding midfield, that central midfield, all of it.
Yeah, that's a great point that you make, because it feels like when we go back to look at these matches to figure out what went wrong, a lot of it is based in the midfield. We don't have that strength. We don't have that communication in the midfield.
Yeah.
We're changing a lot of pieces in it, so it feels like maybe there's not enough glue to sit in the midfield. But that's, again, those positions are positions you have to rotate.
Yeah, and have you seen a group that you want to see over and over again yet? I haven't.
I haven't either.
You know, I mean,
you're talking about like most of the people that have played in that midfield have played with us before, so there should be some understanding of how each other works. But you've seen it with Jeff Winowitz, and you've seen it with Eric Rometty, and you've seen it with players like Heinemann. It feels like it. I mean, Joseph obviously is a huge loss for the season, and like I really think that people are forgetting just how crucial he is as a player, because it's not just him and an attacking standpoint. It's him as a player on the field yelling at people, because you have accountability. We're losing accountability for the players that are on the field because they're not telling each other, and they're not being, it feels like there's no anger on the field. And in some ways, I'm relating this to to All or Nothing Tottenham. You're playing like nice guys. You can't be nice guys. You've got to be whatever word he said, which I'm not saying on the show, but you can't be nice guys. And I feel like they're just allowing it to happen. And there's got to be fight. And that goes back into turning on the first minute, first kick of the game. Fight for it. You have got to fight for it from the kickoff, not from the point in time within the first 25 minutes that you concede a goal.
Yeah. 5 out of your last 6, you've been trailing at halftime. 5 out of your last 6, you've conceded first. The one you didn't, you won. You beat a good team in Dallas. And yes, they were resting some players. You weren't at full strength either. So stop fighting. Anything that's good, let's stop fighting it, okay? Let's try to find something good and rally around that for once. It's the leadership thing. It goes back to a little of what we were saying, because you're expecting people who have been here for the good, which was last year as well, and you're expecting them to step up, and it hasn't happened consistently. I think one thing we've seen here lately, and it is very noticeable, is Franco Escobar really taking on more of, if you want to put him in that LGP category of a defender who is vocal, who is showing that he is playing with his heart on his sleeve, he is doing it. And he's not a captain. I don't know if he's in the team leadership hierarchy at all, but he's playing like one, and he's acting like one. And it's not just because he's not picking up yellow cards. I don't care. I don't want him to pick up bad yellow cards, but I don't care about his yellow cards. He's always going to be a player that's going to get more yellow cards than your average. Fine. I like the fire that he brings to the game. But Franco is playing like a guy who wants to be here for a long time. He's showing you that right now, and you need more of that. You flat out need more of that right now.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Now translating that into how we see this battling up against DC United, right? So DC United obviously just came off of a loss from the New England Revolution. They lost 2-1, right? And you hear it right in the commentary when you're rewatching the highlights of the match. That was a must-win game for DC. So in some ways, they're almost in the same position we are, right? They're struggling. They're not seeming to connect very well. They have a little bit more presence in their attack, and they're just not making the connections to the back of the net. But you were looking at a team in DC United that are struggling, and we're going into a match against them, which I think in some ways, honestly, is winnable.
Oh, yeah.
With what we have now, I definitely think it's winnable. I mean, let's talk about the match that they had against New England, right? So it was a must-win for DC, and they created a lot of chances in the first half. And that's one of the things that Atlanta, being a team that has obviously conceded a lot more than normal with our previous past history of years of this team, have to be very aware of. That's where you need to turn it on, because DC is going to come out of the gate firing. That's just sort of what they have been doing. But you're looking at a team that just can't connect for some reason, and are also very susceptible on turnovers.
Yeah.
So at some point in time, you're trying to make them turn over the ball, and you're trying to counter on them because they're susceptible on the counter.
Yeah, this is a young team for DC. They've had a lot of injuries. So, I mean, you look at the lineup from the New England match, and you're starting two teenagers in Griffin Yao and Moses Nyman, who are two players that I like, two players that I think have bright futures, but they're two very young players, and Nyman struggled a little bit in this one. This is a team that is kind of in the same situation with guys that they've expected to deliver more this season, haven't. Ola Kamara, Yamil Assad, Julian Gressel, Edison Flores before he was injured. They've been kind of just meh. And when you look at the overall numbers for the year, this is a team that is getting a shot and a quarter less per match than you. They're last in the league. This is a team that has an XG of 2 goals less. They're last in the league, and Atlanta's 25th, so not too much further. This is a team that doesn't pass very well. It's under 80% for the season. It's a team that doesn't have a lot of possession. It's 46.5%. It's a team that doesn't complete a lot of long passes. It's a team that doesn't create a lot of chances. It's a team that, I mean, I'm scrolling down. It's like 23rd in rankings in passes into the final third. It's 23rd in progressive passes, 10-yard balls moving forward. They're 21st in switching the point of attack. They're 24th in crosses. They're 26th in shot-creating actions. I mean, it's like, okay, what do they do well? They are active defensively. This is a team that gets stuck into the tackle. It's a team that intercepts a lot of passes. They're 4th in those defensive actions out of teams in the league. They're not great against the dribble. Atlanta is very good on the dribble. That's a factor. DC is very bad on the dribble. They're last in the league with successful dribbles per 90 minutes. They're not good in the air. I mean, you're trying to find something positive about DC. There's really not much there. This is a game you need to win. This is a place where teams have gone in and won matches at Audi Field. DC is going to be combative, and that's what will make it difficult, but they're not combative in a pressing kind of way, really. They're not combative in a like winning all the duels. They're not that team. They are a team that is going to sit and defend, and when they get the opportunity, they'll try to get forward as fast as possible, and that's it. Yeah. It's pretty simple when you look at it from Atlanta's perspective. If you play the way you did against Dallas, you dominate the match, and you win handily. But how often has Atlanta played at that level? Not very in the last month and a half.
I would agree, and that's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, you're basically taking the game plan that you had against FC Dallas and applying it to DC. But what I think is also really pertinent to say is you bring up this point of DC being combative, right? That they are pretty good defensively. If you're looking at this game that they played against New England didn't get their 2 goals until after the 85th minute. Mm-hmm. So it was a long, hard-fought game, and DC held on for a very long point of time. But there's, obviously you're going to have tired legs. You're playing a lot of games in a very short amount of time. There's going to be a point in time where players get winded, they get tired, and they don't battle, or they're not, as you said, combative as much as they were in the beginning. So at that point in time, you have to look at it as this is a long road type of game plan. I don't expect Atlanta to think that they can come out of the gate with this and get a couple goals on them. I don't think that at all. I think they need to be more defensively minded in the first half because DC will come out of the gate trying to score a goal, especially now that it's sort of cat's out of the bag on this, with Atlanta being susceptible to conceding a goal within the first half. I mean, teams are going to try to push Atlanta United's buttons, and they're going to put effort and players forward to get that goal, because they know that once they get that goal, the possibility of Atlanta United coming back is almost 90+% out of the picture.
Yeah.
So at that point in time, you have to be aware that that's going to be pressure that you're facing from minute one. And when we talk about pressure, we're talking about their attack, right? So you obviously have Kamara, great player, great attacker, but you're also looking at Yao, like you said, another great player who is young, but still a good player.
Yeah.
And then you one of my favorite players and an all-time Atlanta United legend, Yamil Assad, who is very creative for them. He is sort of like almost a focal point in some bit of regard.
You'd expect him to be. He hasn't been this season, and that was maybe one of the most surprising things as I've dug into this, because his first year in DC, great season for him. Last year was a mess. It was a mess with whatever advice he was getting on should he come back to DC, should he accept whatever offer they had in front of him, et cetera, et cetera. He didn't. He went back to Velez for a few months. He finished out his contract there. I think he might have come off the bench once. And then it took forever for him to sign a deal coming back to DC. It was too late to join the team. He basically didn't play in 2019. And it's showing this year because, you start digging into the types of numbers that I went through. And, after what we saw here in 2017, after what we saw in DC in 2018, he would be that guy. He's not. He's not involved in getting shots. He's not in the top 5 in shots per 90. He is not creating goal-scoring opportunities. He is not in the top 5 there. He's not doing much, and that's surprising because we know the capability he has. We know the capability that Julian Gressel has, and we're not seeing it from him. Shot-creating actions, it's been Edison Flores, who's been the main one. It's been Federico Higuain, who's very limited in the amount of minutes he can play right now. And then, your next one is Gressel at 2.5. Kamara is 1.8, and that's really low for him. And Kevin Paredes, one of the teenagers, is next. And you're seeing in these teenagers' stats per 90, a lot of Paredes popping up, a lot of Griffin Yao popping up, a lot of Moses Nyman popping up. And then the flip side is a lot of Federico Higuain popping up. And he's not able to give you 90 minutes, really. So you're not getting it from the guys that you should be, and nobody else is really stepping up. But you're at a point, if you're DC, where jobs are on the line. I think even more so than they are here. Ben Olsen doesn't want to leave this club that he's been at as a player or a coach almost his whole professional life. If they don't turn it around, he's gone. There's just no way he stays.
I was going to kind of navigate this towards, because this feels like for Ben Olsen, these next couple of games is his career on the line, really. And then that also chalks it up to the question of, like, does the front office for DC see this as a failure on Ben Olsen, or just does they say, you know what, 2020 was a year for everybody? Do we let it slide this time? And I think the answer is no. I really think Ben Olsen is fighting for his job at the moment. He
is, because it's not just this year. It's been a while where it just hasn't been what it needs to be. And this is a year where, we talked about it this morning on SDH, where I feel like he's got more talent than he's getting results out of. I think he's punched above his weight many times with bad teams and gotten a little more than he should have. He's got talent in Assad, Gressel, Kamara. He's had bad luck with injuries. Paul Arriola being out's a problem. He's got some talented young players in there, and it's not clicking. And it doesn't look like it's going to. And, DC is rode this train for a while with Ben Olsen, and I don't know if there's a whole lot of optimism about it getting much better going forward. I think it's probably time for a refresh for them. And that's a shame, because you're talking about a guy who came into the league in 2018, or in 1998, and he's been there since he almost moved to Nottingham Forest, had some injuries, retired, went straight to the coaching staff. The coaching staff was a disaster. He was the one who got the interim gig, and he kept it ever since. And, it's a shame that it could end with a season like this, but that's what it's looking like for DC and Ben Olsen.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about what we can see from Atlanta United in this match. Obviously, we talked about maybe taking the same exact game plan that they had against SC Dallas and applying it to this match. But who are the players that we see as possibly being key players to this? Obviously, there's a cloud above our heads with big question marks on it. But in realistic terms, who could we see really contributing to this match? I mean, Gallagher was a little bit ghost-like in the game against Chicago? Do we see him sort of coming back to the forefront and really putting pressure on DC's back line? Obviously, Adam John had a good game against Chicago. Do we see him now finally, converting on all of these potential goals? Do we see him actually hitting that back of the net? Mulroney obviously came on, had a lot of good shots in Chicago, put a lot of pressure. Do we see this continual progression of these players who get so close, but again, so far?
I think you got to look at the players out wide. That's where you can take advantage of DC. You're looking at a lineup for DC in their last match out wide that you have to be licking your chops a little bit. Joseph Mora, solid. Chris Adoy-Atcham had a rough night against New England. Hasn't been a regular starter in this league. Yamil Assad, is going to work hard. But on that right side, Adoy-Atcham and Griffin Yao, neither one's all that great defensively. Your left side, George Bello going forward, will be very important. And I want to see what Stephen Glass does on the left side. We don't know about Ezequiel Barco. We don't know if he'll be able to play. This feels like, if he is, a really good spot for him to play on the wing and go 1v1 against these players because he can take advantage. If it's not him, Jake Mulroney feels like he could be a really good spot there. Maybe Gallagher moves over to the right side. Maybe Gallagher moves up top again and gets the start, and John comes off the bench. You are thinking about, and it is 3 points every game. You're looking at every game. You're trying to take it one at a time, the old cliche. But you also do have to realize that you play again on Wednesday. And you are thinking a little bit about Robinson, Dom, Barco. Are they going to be at Hosatu? Are they going to be able to give you a lot Saturday? Or are they going to be in a position to give you more on Wednesday? And maybe you want to hold them out to where you can get them a little closer to 100%. Moreno's coming. So, you can maybe ask a Heineman or Remedi to play Saturday, Wednesday, hoping that Moreno can take their place on the following Saturday and be fresh legs. You do have to think about that a little bit. But the width is, for me, the players you're looking at. Left side primarily, and I want to see who it is at left wing in front of Bello. Bello, I think, will be fresh. He'll have a lot of opportunities to get forward. Right side, a little bit more difficult to get forward, but if it's Franco Escobar or Brooks Lennon at right back, and then whoever is on the right wing, if it's potentially Jurgen Damm, if it's Gallagher, if it's Mulroney, the wide play, if you win that area of the field, you'll win the match.
Yeah, it's interesting points that you make. So that also makes it even more crucial than if you're thinking from a coach's standpoint of why you don't release that injury list.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have that ability to have both Barco and Dom fit to play. You don't want to let DC know that.
Because it's really different. I mean, if it's Gallagher and Mulroney out wide versus Barco and Dom, I mean, you're preparing for different things. If it's Barco wide versus Mulroney or Gallagher or Dom, it's a very different kind of player. If it's Adam John up top because Gallagher's out wide, or if it's John Gallagher up top, that's a very different thing to prepare for. So you want to keep all that under wraps as long as you can. And the current situation, you have the ability to. So you're going to do that because you're trying to win games, because that's what this is all about.
Do we have any questions in the Twitch pitch?
Yeah, Sean Vergara wants to know if you got put on the season-ending IR with Joseph.
No, I did not. I would still play. Like I normally play at least 4 times a week. And I normally play on Sunday, but I'm going to take the Sunday off because I'm trying to be responsible.
Are you day-to-day?
I'm day-to-day. Yeah, I'm day-to-day. It is
more than a knock, that's for sure.
Huh?
It's more than a knock.
It's definitely more than a knock. I'm at this point in time right now where I'm trying to do the rice, which is, obviously trying to ice it, trying to make sure that I wrap it, trying to make sure that, I've got compression and that elevating it as much as possible.
Yep.
So it's less than 20, well, technically it's 24 hours now. So, bruising, swelling, nothing terribly bad. It's not that swollen. So it's just that point in time where it's day to day. I just can't go around punching anybody though with my left hook. So that's the most upsetting part of it, I think.
That's probably a good thing. That's definitely a good thing. Abby is recommending don't compress it too much. Go easy on the compression.
No, it's been in this for most of the day. So thanks, Abby.
Let it breathe.
Okay, I'll just go ahead and take this off now while we continue to talk. Any other questions?
Abby can definitely help you out with the recovery of this. Projected lineup, Sean had a question about that. It's really hard because of the unknowns with the players that we've mentioned. I will take a stab at it and say Gazan, backline, left to right, Bello, Meza, because I don't think you're going to put Robinson straight back in.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to put Robinson straight back in. You might sub him on, but I think that Escobar sort of earned that spot right now.
Yeah.
You could consider Anton Walks, but I think Escobar really has earned that spot on that back.
I think it's Bello, Meza, Escobar, Lennon on the back line. I think it's Lorenowitz and Remedi with Heineman in front of them as your midfield trio. I think Barco and Dom, you're going to go easy with them too. I'm not expecting them to come straight back into the lineup. I think we'll see some of those four, but I don't think they'll start. So Gallagher on the left, Mulroney on the right, and they could switch throughout the night, and John up top. That's what I'm expecting, because you don't want these guys who are coming off of injury, who are not 100%, to come back into the lineup here and maybe go too far too fast and then not be available for Wednesday and the following Saturday and the following Wednesday and the following Saturday. You got to be smart with it. So if you can bring them in for 30 minutes, that might be the better route. And then maybe they can give you 60 on Wednesday. Maybe you can get 90 minutes out of the two games, but you don't want to blow it first early on.
Yeah, and it is important to, like you said, to keep in mind about Wednesday, because Wednesday is a little bit different of a match because obviously it's a rivalry game, right? So playing against Orlando, which is always going to be contentious as far as the hype around it and just the atmosphere, the two teams playing against each other. Orlando, obviously, the better team right now, clearly, but you still want to have a good showing against them regardless. So I definitely agree with you. I think that they're not going to pressure Bello and Dom to come on and start playing those minutes right off the bat, but I do think we can see them trickle in. I think that you're absolutely right, but there also should be a point in saying that Lennon's not a slow player. So if we're talking about speed on the wings, you're going to have both Bello and Lennon who have that ability to obviously bomb up the pitch as well and put in good crosses. I mean, we saw that with Lennon against the game against Chicago Fire. He has the ability to make those good crosses. Yeah,
and I like the idea of Gallagher and Mulroney inverted, where they're coming inside. That's creating the space for Bello and Lennon out wide. And you can be dangerous in the final third with that. Winter Wind with a question. What was it from the championship season? Gadara, that kind of never say die kind of attitude. So Joseph out there miming a knife between his teeth. He said that you were right. That seems to be missing, especially in the midfield. That's part of it. I mean, you're making mistakes that you didn't make that season. Even in the bad performances that season, probably the closest game that I can tie to things we're seeing this year is the season opener in 2018 in Houston, where there were some really bad individual mistakes that didn't fit what we were used to out of that team. That's been this whole season. The Toronto game at the end of the season, you just got beat. You came out flat and got beat. It wasn't a bunch of individual mistakes. You got beat by a good team who wanted to keep their record and didn't want to lose it in front of their faces. So that's what happened. Toronto wasn't a great team that whole season, but they had talent, and they had an attitude that day that you didn't. You came out flat and maybe a little arrogant. Houston was the game where it felt like this year, where it's a bunch of individual mistakes. You didn't make those, and is that down to some of that attitude? Is it down to the presence of a player like Joseph who, when the vibe, the focus seems to slip a little bit, you see Joseph like staring people down and you see Joseph motioning at teammates. He keeps you locked in. He also gives you confidence because you figure if you feed him, he's going to find a goal.
Yeah, for sure. And it's the staring, it's the motioning, it's the physical yelling. I mean, you see him angry on the pitch. I mean, he uses the angry emoji for a reason. He is aggressive on the pitch. He wants to win every single game, every single moment. You have to have a 2-second memory right? You can't just hold on to things that happened 2 minutes ago and let that drive you in as a player to cause you to have certain errors. What is it that causes this team to switch off in the beginning? That to me is the most crucial question for this team, is like, what is it that is causing them to not be turned on from the get-go? I don't know if that's from the coaching. I don't know if that's players' lack of motivation when the whistle starts. I don't know what it is. But that's, to me, the biggest issue, is that fight and that drive and that want to win is not there when you start kickoff.
Look, the stories about the Frank DeBoer time here, this was not a roster that wanted to buy in to what he wanted to do. They pushed back on that from the beginning. That's a problem. It affected the first half of the season last year. You came to an understanding. Came into the season, I thought, looking really good in preseason. Started to have some injuries. Got results in the first 4 games, even with Joseph going down in those. That's including CONCACAF. Things were looking good. It looked like that buy-in had continued. It looked like there was an understanding. It looked like you had motivation. Then you had the match at the Azteca, which was weird and unique, and you played better than the scoreline, but still you gave up some things you couldn't give up in that game, and then everything stopped. And then it never came back. And it looked in Orlando like it did at the beginning of 2019, where there wasn't buy-in. And it's easy to blame a coach in that situation because that's the easiest fix. Right. It's not only one-sided, and that needs to be understood. And that's something you've got to see change. You've got to see better body language, like Franco Escobar has talked about. You've got to see Joseph's body language. I think sometimes people take it as a negative. It's motivational. He has the right to demand more from his teammates because he's delivered. It's different when players who are not performing well have that attitude. Then it doesn't come off so well. Joseph has that because he scores goals. That's a different conversation entirely. That has to change. We have to see a different attitude. It kind of plays off of the last question we'll have from Winter Wind. More likely to come out and try to be aggressive against DC from the whistle, or play simple and grow into the game. This is a team that needs to not come out scared in matches. They need to not come out flat. They need to not come out holding back. They need to be aggressive. They need to come out with swagger. They need to be locked in, but I've felt like more than anything that is easily correctable, because, lacking focus, those kinds of things, there's not a lot of things you can do to work on that. Having swagger, having an attitude, having confidence is things that you can control. And that's what you need to control in this one, because you can't come in and play scared. DC is not a good team. This is a team that you should beat. No question. If you don't, it's a problem. This is a team that you should be able to handle, even on the road, because you need to now, because this is a club that should have that swagger anytime they put that A on their chest. This is a club that has that expectation. And if you don't, that's a problem. And if that needs to be reminded to the whole group by the veteran leadership of the team, okay. If that needs to be reminded to the group by somebody new who came here because of what that A on the chest means, okay. If that needs to be reminded to the group by the front office, by the coaching staff, okay. But that has to be the way you come into this match. You have to come into this match that, no, we are a team that is not what our record says it is. And we're going to stop being that team now. And you have to come in, and if that means the old Bruce Arena thing, and if Shooter McGavin's with us, he's probably throwing things because I'm giving Bruce props. But Bruce, if you go back and watch the 2002 World Cup documentary, before every match, he said, roughly, I'm paraphrasing, I want the first shot, I want the first foul, I want the first goal. I think there were other firsts he wanted, but all of that's part of it. You want to be first to everything. And that's the attitude this team needs to have in DC tomorrow. That's the attitude they have to play with from here on out.
I absolutely agree with you. So does Piper, who is very vocal and very adamant and agreeing with absolutely everything you just said.
That's okay. It's good to have the backup of the dog listenership.
She agrees. The dogs are with you.
I'll take that.
We totally agree. Totally agree.
Team needs to play like dogs tomorrow. I will take that.
You can't be nice, guys. You gotta play like.
Yep. Hey, a lot of people have cited it. It's accurate. Jose knows what he's talking about, and what Bruce said at that 2002 team. That was the same thing. He said it in a way that didn't get bleeped, but it's the same idea. Is come out and be those guys. Be those guys that nobody wants to play.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Obviously, we have gone a little bit over time, but let's really quickly, two things obviously need to happen. I did not get to hear your score prediction from this show today, so let everybody know what your score prediction is.
1-0, Jake Mulroney goal.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I have 1-0 Adam John.
Okay.
But still, same score line. I do think Atlanta can hold a clean sheet.
Yep.
I do think we do get one on the board. So hopefully we come away with 3 points, obviously against DC United. Just so everybody here knows, what is the schedule for good old Jason Longshore tomorrow?
All right, so we've got the SDH Power Hour in the morning at 10 o'clock. If you guys have Atlanta, D.C. questions, if there are Leeds and Manchester City questions, because that's going to be the big match of the afternoon. Anything else going on in the soccer world, 10 to 11 on the Twitch pitch, on the SDH app, on soccerdownhere.net. Then at around 6 o'clock, we'll have the AT&T countdown to kickoff on the Atlanta United social media channels. We'll have the lineup. We'll break that down. We'll preview the match. Myself and Mike Conti. You can watch that on ATL UTD Twitter and Facebook. I think it makes its way to YouTube as well. Then we're on the air at 6:30 on 92.9 The Game, on the radio.com app, on the Atlanta United app with the Five Stripes countdown. Kickoff will be just after 7. It's a local broadcast, so 7:08 kickoff. We'll have the full-time report for an hour after the final whistle in all the usual places, and it'll go out as a podcast over on 92.9 The Game probably before the night's over. If not, it'll go up Sunday.
Okay, awesome. Well, obviously, if you want to get all of the information, listen to Jason when they go live on all of the different platforms that they go live.
Everywhere.
He's a big wig now.
All over the place.
Yeah. Obviously, follow him at Longshoe if you want a reiteration of this, and listen to their Power Hour tomorrow. You can follow me at the Kelly Francis. I will most likely be live tweeting with one hand, so it might be not as fiery takes, but who knows?
Could get some crazy one-handed typing. Abby says you can wear the wrap, not too tight, figure 8 wrap. Not circles, and you need to allow the fingers to bend at the first crease.
Okay. Yeah. Abby just messaged me because that
Kelly's going to need some help, Abby. You're going to have to help her out.
Most of that went over my head. I did do the circle wrap, so it's interesting that I need to do the figure 8.
You need to do the figure 8.
I haven't been putting them in between my fingers because my fingers can do this. It's just obviously this part of my hand is swollen. So good to know. But obviously we look forward to seeing you guys next time. Next game is against Orlando.
I was about to say.
So the next run up will be on Tuesday. You can find us here, same place, same starting time. At 7 p.m. We look forward to seeing you there. But in the meantime, go Atlanta United. Be a bunch of bleeps.
Be those guys. Listen to Jose.
Exactly.